To the B-side, Brad here. We're going to do a little bit of a paint over of the Jack of Hearts sculpt that I had done. I'm working on the Daredevil 3 cover, but right now I'm just modeling buildings and there's nothing to say about that. And this is going to be exciting only in the sense that, it's a good chance I'm going to make a lot of mistakes. So what I want to do here basically is I want to render out, the sculpt from ZBrush and try and not just put it in Photoshop and kind of like make it look like, I actually want to kind of put it in an environment and make it look like an actual like keyframe from a movie, kind of a thing. So that's kind of the idea. Who knows how we're going to be. But again, let's have a little fun with this. So here I am. I'm going to go here into ZBrush. First of all, thank you guys so much for hanging out. It was great to see people in the chat already. It's awesome. I see that 3D Matic's under an assumed name tonight. I can only imagine there's a nefarious reason for that. So this is kind of where I'm going to go with the thing. Where I'm going to go. I've already kind of rendered out the images because rendering out is time consuming and you don't want to have to, see all that stuff. So, so here we go. I have, I made my canvas for the sake of this image. I made the canvas basically print size. So I want the document. I made it 2550 wide and 3300 high, which I think is like a typical. It's paper size or poster size, so it's going to be pretty decent size for Photoshop. And again, and if you notice already, I apologize, but I want to make sure once I find a camera angle that I like, and it might take some time to find that camera angle because like it's a different look here, in terms of like what I want to see, what I'm trying to kind of go with regard to the overall like image I'm going for. So, like if you start experimenting with different camera angles and so on, you just I want to save them so I can kind of come back to it, or just in case I accidentally move my camera, come back. I want to come back to it again. What's up, Eddie? We got Ben here, Jamie here, Rams here. Oh, we got up top here. We got 3D Matic under the assumed name. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. So again, one of the things that I want to kind of remind you in case you forget is that there is a timeline in ZBrush where you can keyframe, you can save your camera positions, right? So under movie timeline show, you can just come up here in your timeline, and when you find a camera angle that you like, I think camera is by default the track. So if you just tap somewhere, right, it'll put a keyframe there. So then if you move your camera around, you can just kind of drag that keyframe back, and it'll go right there, right? So that's what I had done for this one. I wanted to kind of just find the keyframe that I thought was kind of right for what I was going for here. And again, like I said, I want to kind of make it seem like he's in a scene, not like the last time I think I did a paint over. It was that character from. Oh, okay. So your assumed name was your other name. You see, okay. So now we understand, man. Okay. Hey, Raphael, how you doing, man? All right. So yeah, if you remember, we did a paint over way back when of a character that I was working on for an animation project, but it was just him rendered out against like a basic background, right? But I want to kind of try and make this into something that feels a little bit more, like I said, like an actual scene. So, so here I am in Photoshop, and again, in my mind here, I want this to kind of feel like the overall look of the background. In my mind, I'm thinking of like Titan, the planet from Avengers: Infinity War that Thanos was from. It had a lot of like warm tones to it. And I want to kind of have that and have there be lots of like dust and debris as if he's like kind of like stirring up some stuff, right? So this is just kind of like a color palette idea that I was throwing out here. So I want to kind of go through what I did. Again, nothing exciting, but basically I made a document which was again, the paper size is 8.5 inches by 11 inches. I made this, I think, 10 inches by 12. Like I just kind of like I widened it a little bit, so that I have a little bit more room to play, right? And I just kind of brought in some colors, right? So basically, I just lassoed out some areas and just dumped paint in there, right? So this is very cell shaded looking. This is going to hopefully look better, moving forward. But this is really just for a color palette. And a lot of it's going to be kind of blurred out in the background anyway, but I just wanted to kind of get an idea of what the color palette was going to be. Jamie, thanks about that's my new daily routine while I'm at work. Is I'll find something to either sculpt or paint, and I knew I was going to be working in Photoshop tonight, so I wanted to kind of get back in the flow of actually painting because I hadn't done that in a while. So, and when in doubt, paint one of my cats. So I'm never at any loss for potential models in that area. So that's what they go with. So this is what I'm thinking of, right? So again, I want him kind of hovering. So the environment here is mostly just going to be kind of like a suggestion in the background, but it might be somewhat noticeable. I did a bit of a darkening exposure too. I want to kind of have you darken the top here. So basically, again, I just used my lasso and just lassoed out these different shapes, just kind of layered them on top of each other with some darkening shapes getting for, but like I might play around with the background a little bit, but like I said, it's really going to be just kind of an incidental part of this whole thing. I will do some painting for like the sky and stuff, but I just wanted to kind of get a feel as to what he's hovering over, right? So I just brought in again. I did a bunch of different renders of him. If you remember from the one I did way back when, I did a bunch of different ZBrush renders with different lighting setups and different materials, and then I'm going to start kind of like combining them in here and kind of painting some in and painting some things out, right? So this is just the most basic render here, and you'll see here I put this in a folder, and the folder is where I applied the mask that ZBrush generates. That way, everything I bring in will automatically have just the character visible, and everything else get masked out. And you'll see in my folder here. Let's go to my folder. I rendered out a bunch of different things, and I do this all the time. And I don't know. Again, I don't know whether or not I ever use them all. But you're going to see in my renders, I have a bunch of different renders here, different materials, different lighting setups. So, oh yes, good call. Let me move my thing. I always forget about that thing. So let me grab this guy and go to my two little guys here. And yeah, is it this? Oh, I gotta unlock them. My bad. Let me unlock these guys. There we go. Okay. I'm gonna slide myself right over here and scale myself down a little bit. Okay. So yeah, so that way you can see my legs. Good catch, Jamie. Thank you. I always forget about that. Cool. All right. So yeah, so basically, again, what I have in my Photoshop right now is my background, which is just basically I just painted some colors in here, and my little lassoed out landscape, right? Like it's just a basic thing. So again, I have my image. You can see here because I made the canvas slightly bigger than the actual rendered out image from ZBrush. For the mask here, when I applied it, it had a white border around there because there was, the mask was a little bit too small, so I just filled it with black. But now everything that I put in here is going to be masked out to fit this, right? So that's the idea. And you can see here, like I said, I rendered out a whole bunch of things. So I was going to bring in a few of them. And again, this is not the most exciting part, but I'm just kind of want to establish the overall feel of this guy. And he looks very different in terms of the lighting of the background. And I'm aware of that right now. The background is a little bit, again, it's warm, but it's also somewhat desaturated. And he is nothing close to desaturated. That's gonna come later too. There's gonna be a little bit of blending of colors here too. But let's go ahead. I'm just gonna go here again. If I go to open, you can see here again. I'm gonna bring in some of these different ones. I'm gonna choose the ones that are just different lighting setups. So I have light bottom, light left, light right. I think it's called top light. So now basically it's the same thing, right? It's just the same guy, but with light coming from different angles. That way I can essentially just use that and kind of blend them in a little bit and get like bounce light. So it's not just a single lighting source casting these kind of very, very dark shadows here. So again, I'm just going to bring them in and then we'll see what we're going to do with them. So I'm just going to grab this here, select all, Control A, copy. Now when I paste, I just want to make sure I paste it right in place. So Control Shift V will paste it right in place. You can see it's kind of exactly around top of our guy here. And ultimately what I'm going to end up doing is just kind of like bringing in some of this. I'm not going to worry too much about it yet. I'm going to go here to light right, Control A, Control C, Control Shift V. So again, just bringing in my different lighting setups here by selecting them and then copying them, pasting them right in here. Let's go here to the bottom light. All these are just going to be in case I need to kind of reveal part of them, right? So that's what I'm going to do right now. Before I get into all the other stuff, this is the kind of the least interesting part. This is where I just kind of try and see what parts of him are not being illuminated yet, that they're in shadow, and how I can bring some of those in. So for example, here, this is the light from the right. So we're getting some of these little areas here. So what I'm gonna do is just select this and hold down Alt and make a mask, right? So that basically is making the entire thing invisible. And now I can just go with white and a nice soft brush. Now I'm gonna go to a pretty soft brush here because I wanna kind of be subtle about this. And I can just kind of paint in. I'm gonna turn on transfer, so it's, again, it's gonna be more subtle. I can kind of just paint in part of that layer, right? So as I kind of paint in here, let's come back here and see what's going on. So let's just make sure I'm on the right one. Let's just like that. Yeah, that's cool. So now you can see here, if I come in here and start painting in, I'm going to bring in a little bit of the lighting on this leg of this, right? I can even change the blend mode of this to something like screen, so that when I bring in this, I'm not bringing in any of the shadows this has. I'm just bringing in the light, right? So basically anything that was illuminated from light here, I'm kind of bringing that in. You can see here, I'm going to zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about, but like here, now I have a little bit of like indirect light showing here. Before, it was very, very dark, right? But this one here had a little bit of light hitting it. So now that I have the blend modes at the screen, I can just bring that in a little bit because I don't want to have anything be completely pitch black, which is what you tend to get, I think, in ZBrush, when you have a single light source. You're going to have some shadows that are just essentially the complete absence of that one light source. And I don't really want that because, again, in this scene, he's got a lot of bounce light going on. So I'm just gonna, I can always bring more shadows in later, but I just want to kind of get a little bit more of that visibility there. Here, this is mostly light coming from above. This is my top light, I believe. So this here, I might play around with this a little bit later. I'll come back to that one. This one is under light, right? So again, I'll set this again to screen, hold down Alt to hit my mask, and now I can just bring in whatever I might want. And in my mind, again, he's going to be kind of like, he's going to be hovering above the ground, and he might have like a little bit of like magic swirly stuff happening. So some of this might end up being colorized instead of just making it bright. But again, I do want it to seem like he's being illuminated from some of these sources here. So again, around the belt, I just want to have that be a little bit more vibrantly colored. Right. This here is, let's bring this on top so I can see what this is. Okay, that's the right light. So again, and I actually kind of like the idea of the right face, part of his face, getting a lot of illumination here. So I'm just gonna hold down Alt and bring it in. I might not even need to worry about making this screen. I might just paint this straight in just to get a little bit of that on here. Because I kind of like the little contrast there in the face I'm getting. So just little things here. I might have the hearts pop a little bit on the legs because dude's got hearts on his boots. You have to see him. All right, so again, just little ways of kind of like playing around with the way light and shadow is moving. And all this stuff I can come back to, right? But this is just the basic lighting. I'm going to make this a group within the group, and I'm just going to call this base lighting, because this is just the visibility of different parts of it, right? So now I want to kind of have a little fun with bringing in some of these other weird renders. I'm just going to close these ones out. Again, I'll come back to these. Obviously, you don't want to do everything to a couple pictures and then bring in other things and completely undoes everything. So I just want to kind of like nibble around with it with all these different guys. So now I'm going to bring in the other parts of the lighting, which is like the rim lighting and some of the reflection and stuff like that. So again, you can see here I have rim top, rim right, rim left, rim bottom. So a little more of the same. But these are going to be, again, these are much more kind of obviously dramatic, right? So again, I'm going to bring this in, select all, copy, Control-Shift-V. And what I want to do with this is, again, I'm going to change the blend mode, obviously, something like screen, right? So that way I'll get that rim light kind of popping on him. And I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see, like when I bring this in, you can see things like, he's getting a nice little corner light, rim light on the side here. And if I really wanted to, I can actually colorize this a little bit. So right now, this is essentially just a white light, right? But if I were to do an adjustment layer over top of it, like say hue and saturation, and then and my little button here to link it so it's only affecting this, I can turn this to colorize and then crank up the saturation and make it something like that orange color. So now the rim light is actually going to kind of like it's going to mimic a little bit more, the sky and the environment, right? So now I have a little bit more of an orangish tone here. You can see before, right? It's just kind of a lighter color, but now it's got a little bit of that orangish tone to it, which is kind of what I was going for. And again, just like everything else, this has a mask on it. So if I don't want to have that kind of oranging up my little jewels here, and I kind of don't, I'm just going to go my mask with black and, paint that out so that the jewels on the belt stay nice and red. But I wanted to have the little rim light be a little bit more um, orangey. And I can change the blend mode from screen to something like add to get a little bit more pop too. So now it's really popping out. And I kind of like that. So again, this rim light is going to be from the environment, but again, I think I'm going to have him with a little bit of like pinkish swirly energy coming down here from underneath. So when I bring in my other rim lights, like say my rim bottom, I might end up colorizing that to like a pinkish thing, right? So Control A, Control C, and then Control Shift V. Now, before I paste this, make sure I don't want to paste it in between the hue set and that rim because then it'll break that connection. So I'm make sure I paste it above that. Again, set this to screen or add. Might go to add for this. But again, I'll do another hue set adjustment layer for this one. Link it. Turn on colorize. Make sure to turn on colorize if you want to do this, right? Because it doesn't shift that. Now you can see here I'm going to have nice little pink things going on here. So I might change this to add to make it nice and bright. So you can see here, if and when I give him that kind of swirly pink energy that he kind of comes up from, you can see in the reference for Jack of Hearts, that's kind of what he has. He has like this, let me bring it out in the middle of the scene here. So he has like this kind of pinkish energy, right? And all the things I've seen, he's got like a pinkish hue to what he's doing. So that's kind of what I'm looking to play around with. So, painting in that kind of stuff will be interesting, but I do think that that's the color I'm going to go for. So I'm kind of planning ahead with the rim light here to kind of basically fake, some reflected light. And again, I'm getting that on these jewels here, which is not a bad idea because it would reflect the pink. But maybe I don't want it everywhere. Maybe I want to have it like maybe at the bottom, but maybe at the top, I'll kind of paint out. I'll paint that out. Am I getting? Is it actually working? It seems like it's happening here. Let me see. Okay. Yeah, it is. I just want to make sure it's actually doing stuff. I'm just going to paint that out a little bit, just so it's not quite so. I'm painting, but nothing's happening. Why is that? Why is that the case? Interesting. Okay, let me just make a layer and see if I can paint something, and I can't. So let's see here. Make a layer and then paint. Interesting that nothing's working. All right, well, when that happens, what you do is you save, and then it's going to close, and then we're going to reopen because that's weird. I'm going to turn off ZBrush too. Yeah. But yeah, I guarantee something happened where where something was selected and it wasn't letting me like work outside of it or something like that. I should know better, but I was doing wrong. So let's bring it back. Go back here and let's see now if I can paint black in there. Yes, okay. It does let me paint in there now. Exciting to know that I can use Photoshop again. Okay, so there's that rim light. So the other rim lights, again, am I going to need them? Maybe, maybe not. I don't really know for sure, but I'm going to bring them in. So rim top and rim right, I think are the two other ones I need to worry about. So, rim top. I think I may have done rim top already. No, that's okay. So let's paste in rim right. This one I'm just going to do a straight add. I'm just gonna go with that. I might colorize this just a little bit to make it warmer, but I can help myself. By the way, this is one thing to know. It's a good bet that whenever I do these kinds of things, whenever I try and work in Photoshop to kind of like composite these things, I end up going overboard all the time. All the time, just so you know. So like it ends up getting really gaudy and really overdone. And yeah, that's probably going to happen again. I mean, I'm not going to lie. All right, so these are my rim lights. I'm going to grab these layers here, Control G. I'm going to call this rim lighting. I like to try and keep this as organized as possible. I'm going to close these rim lights. I don't think I need any more for now. And now let's open up. Um, I saved that. I did a couple of spec passes. I don't know the extent to which I'm going to be needing them, but I wanted to kind of play around with them. So these are weird. And again, like this is one of the things where I'm like, well, while I'm rendering these things out, I might as well try this, right? So for example, here's my spec right and my spec left. This is just light coming from different sources. I don't know how much specularity I'm going to need on him. He's not wearing a lot. He's not wearing a lot of plastic and stuff. But hey, so I'm going to bring that in. So again, Control Shift V. I'm going to actually put this behind the rim lighting. So I'm going to put this in between the base lighting and the rim lighting. You can see here how crazy that looks. But again, this is one of those ones where I'm just going to change the blend mode, something like screen, and you're going to see, he's got some specularity in certain places. I might want that in some places, I might not. So I'm just going to save it for now. This is called spec. I think it's spec. It's his left, so I'll go to spec left here. It's probably spec right, but I'm probably going to end up turning this off entirely with the mask and then painting in where I want it, right? So you can see I turn it off and on. A little speck on the face that I might find useful. A little bit here on the torso. So again, Alt click to mask out the whole layer, and then let's bring in some. Sometimes Photoshop really gets on my nerves. Like it makes those little angry noises at me whenever I try and do something. I have no idea why. I'm just going to kind of again bring in a tiny hint of speck here, just to get a little bit of light hitting there. Okay, you can see definitely his eyes completely blown out, but that's okay. I think that I'll have to bring in one of my other lit passes to get the actual iris back because it's nowhere to be found. All right, so let's go here. There's spec left. Yep, okay, here's spec right. And same idea, right? So put that in there. Screen. You can see what I'm getting. And you can see like this one here, where it might be useful is kind of a little hint on the piping up here. This is like the most elaborate way of making the piping on its face stand out. Look at that. There you go. Completely worth it. I'm going to have a little bit of that speck right here. A little bit on his arm here. Not much else. I just made a little hot highlight right there. Again, a lot of positioning for very little actual payoff, but that's okay. So this is spec right. There we go. Now these other ones are actually a little more interesting because they can play into the fact he does have some kind of metallic things happening here. So here's gold, right? So I'm going to bring that in right on top. And I'm going to see what blend mode works for this. So I'm looking mostly at things like the belt, right? Things that kind of have a gold metallic element to them. And they always tend to think of overlay as my go-to. It's actually kind of cool. Hard light's kind of neat. Let's go to hard light. Let's see how this looks. Hold down Alt and hit that to kind of mask out everything. Then I'm going to come in here and again, just kind of bring back some of this. Now, you're going to see, I want to actually just bring it in where the belt is and not where everything else is. So here's what I'm going to do. Before I do anything else, I'm going to use the clown path. The clown path is a way of isolating parts of the model so that you can paint more easily, right? And that's one of the most important passes from ZBrush, I think, is the clown. So the clown pass here is just it's a flat shaded representation of the model that I can use I can just kind of select based on color, and that will kind of isolate the effect of my brush, right? So if I go to my magic wand tool here and click on the blue of the belt, hold down Shift and grab the light blue of the belt trim. That's the stuff that's going to be mostly what I'm looking for right now. So I'm just going to hide that layer, go back to the mask of the gold, and now I can come in here and paint in that a little bit more, and not have to worry about anything else. I feel like I lost the oh, that's not the magic wand tool. It's that magic wand tool. Should be on the right friggin' thing first. Sometimes I'm dumb, guys. That's one thing I forgot to mention. All right, there you go. So now I can bring that in a little bit. I can bring in that metallic element to this. Right, I can isolate that effect more easily. And you can see, again, maybe here on the bracers. So go back here, magic wand, select that. I'll grab all this, basically, all the gold, all the metallic stuff here. That way I can just, bring some of that in. Make sure I get all of it. All right, there you go. So now I can turn that off, come back here to my mask, and then bring in some of that metallic element here. Again, I don't need to bring it all in. Like this kind of gives it more of a really hot highlight, which I might not want entirely, so I'm going to turn that a little bit. But it's just kind of a nice way to get some of that metallic element here. I don't think there's anything else I really need for the gold, but let's start. It's a start. I'm going to start naming this too. Now let's bring in bronze. I don't know what I'm going to do with bronze, but bronze looks neat, so I'm going to try and figure something out with that. It's ready to start messing around with blend modes and see if something leaps out at me. I feel like I need to use it though. I just kind of think it's cool. I might actually bring that in and apply it to some of the trim. I think this looks kind of interesting on the trim. Kind of gives the trim that like a little bit more of a metallic feel. Let me just see. Yeah, I kind of like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here to my clown, and I don't have the trim separate from this, which I kind of wish I did, but what are you going to do? I'm going to grab that and go to my bronze here. Actually, shoot, I didn't make a mask yet. So Alt click to make the mask, and now I'm going to magic wand. W select, and we'll grab that one too. Okay, so I want to actually bring it. I don't know why, but I like the idea of making the trim here. I have just a little hint of like a metallic sheen to it. I mean, he's got a pretty fancy outfit on. It makes a certain degree of sense that it would, have a little bit going on. Yo, Gus, how you doing, man? Yeah, and that is. Oh, you'll note, by the way, that this is a new setup. This is not the other. It looks a little different. So I'm learning this. I'm getting a little bit better at this, but it's definitely a new process here. Now, thank you guys for showing up, man. It's so cool just to kind of hang out and play around with this here. I think I'm going to do that same little gold pop on the trim. Let's see what's going on here. I'm on here. I'm in quick mask mode, for goodness sakes. I don't know if you know what quick mask mode is, but it's the thing that most often screws me up. That seems to be the main purpose of quick mask mode. No, I mean, it's cool, but quick mask mode is if you hit the Q key by mistake, then you really can't do anything until you tell it, tell it it's a good boy and move on. All right, so there we go. So a little bit of bronze there. And now let's see what else we got. So we have, again, in the chrome, this is just basically a metallic feel. What I might want to do with this, I think it's to maybe make some like these little hearts and stuff pop a little bit. So I'm going to see what the blend mode might be to do that, if there is one, if one exists. Hard light is crazy. I kind of hate myself for liking it, so I'm not really sure how it's going to work out. But the idea that his outfit is kind of like it's kind of metallic, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. So I might try this. Let's just see. Again, like I said in the beginning, this could be disastrous, which is okay. I'm going to grab all the main shirt parts. I think it's just this part in the middle, that yellow part. So I'm gonna make that look a little bit different, I think. Let's come in here and just like lightly bring this in. So I have my brush set to white, but it's pen pressure sensitive, right? So I just want to see how this looks if I just bring in a little hint of this. Just because I don't know why I like this so much. Wow, I got some really weird effects going there. Yeah, it's kind of curious. Now this is nuts, I know, but now I'm just going to go and tone down the opacity a little bit. I just want to give it a little hint that there's like maybe this outfit is not cotton. Maybe it's got a little bit of a metallic element to it. I don't know. Who knows? This is really just another specularity pass when I think about it. And I think it was one of those. It was a weird material that when I was rendering out stuff, I was just looking at every material thing. That's cool. That's really cool. So I was just calling everything. What I'm gonna do with this one is just use it to hit some of the high points on the embroidery here, essentially. So I want these little areas here to have a little bit of a shine to them. So I'm kind of hitting this right now. Again, you might not even see it on the screen, but I'm just trying to kind of have these little areas here just pop a little bit, just so that they're not just flat. It does make them pop a little bit, so I'm gonna have to. Oh, geez, it's not that much. That a little bit there. Definitely rethinking the shiny legs there. So okay, there we go. Wait. Oh, okay, Ben and Gus, you should know, Ben. I was actually in Blender, and Gus, you should know I was actually in Blender yesterday. Now, oh, I should mention. Look at it. You see the shirt? You see the shirt? You see the shirt? Okay. Anyway, I was in Blender yesterday. I was in a room with Mike, Bradley, and Tony, and Bradley can tell you that no one has ever whined more than I was. No one has ever complained more than I was complaining about Blender. I was the biggest brat. I'm glad it wasn't on tape. I'm glad no one will ever hear that again. I was just such a pain. Poor Bradley had to listen to me being all snippy and oh, it was terrible. It was terrible. Long story short, I still don't like it, but we'll get there one day. All right. So I was trying it though. I was trying it. I was complaining the entire time. All right. So what else do we have? Before we again, this is still all just like it feels like it's all preliminary at this point, but. All right, so there's not a whole lot left to worry about. I think the only things I have left really are a couple of little colors that I might add into the skin and the cavity map. I'm going to just go with those three for now. So what was I attempting to do in Blender? I was attempting to simply go to component mode, grab an edge, and move it in under 3 clicks. That's all I wanted to do. Because again, one of my big hang-ups is I feel like it's inefficient. It takes 3 or 4 actions to do what in my takes me 1. Now again, I'm sure there are ways around it and stuff, and Bradley was definitely helping me in that regard. But I mean, I'm sure Bradley knows it's a losing battle in the sense that I'm determined not to like it. So, guys, bite your tongue. Although, no, you know what though, that's not a bad idea. If for no other reason that it'll stop me maybe from giving up so fast, because man, I do need help in not I do need help in not giving up immediately. It's definitely true. I'm gonna go here to this. This was just I think one of those red clay or whatever thing, and I'm just gonna bring this in. I'm going to use it as like a subsurface scattering for the very few parts of his skin. So I'm just going to bump up the sat a little bit and then change this to soft light. And again, Alt-click to make the mask go away. And just come in here with my brush and just bring a little bit of that warmth into the hand here, a tiny bit into the face. By a tiny bit, I mean a tiny bit. That's not making it like he's glowing. But I do gotta find and render with his eyes, where his eye is visible. That's a little bit rough right there. We'll come back to that. But the other one is a blue um, one here, which is again a weird material. But I thought maybe I would try that as kind of almost like a subsurfacey thing for the blue side of him. So I'm going to change that to, again, soft light, alt click. And let's just, again, bring a little bit of that in here just to kind of get some of that purplish element of the blue kind of showing up in the face a little bit. Right? Just a little bit. Okay, so again, before, after, just kind of get a little bit of that to show up there. And again, if I want to make sure I only have it in the face, I can go to my clown paths and make sure that these two are the only places that this is working. And I'll just, invert my selection and then just go back to my mask and paint black to make sure that anything that kind of came out of the lines is going to be taken care of. All right, so I think for the most part, all I got to do now is do the cavity map. And the cavity path. The cavity path is one of those things that whether or not it actually works, I just like it. I just think it looks cool. It kind of tones everything down a little bit, which in this case is especially going to be useful because, again, he's very saturated for the background I want to put him in. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to bring that cavity map in. And I'm going to change just to soft light as well. And again, just having that, it just kind of like, it gives everything a little bit more of a subdued thing. It's a little too crazy. I'm going to tone it down, but like maybe 40 or 50%. But it just makes them a little more, just kind of brings everything in. And I can also maybe adjust the colorizing on this, the colorization on this. It's a little bit green. So I'll do an adjustment layer over this one as well, and just shift the hue. I'm not going to do colorize. I'm just going to shift the hue a little bit toward the orange, toward the warm state. So let's crank up the opacity of this so we can see the difference here. So this is before and after. It just kind of gets a little bit warmer here, right? And guys, that is kind of where I am when it comes to Blender. Again, I know Blender can do a lot of different things. I don't feel comfortable using it for modeling because it feels clunky on me. I definitely don't think it's a rigging software for me yet, and animation's the same problem. But rendering, yeah, Cycles is awesome. Eevee's also, I mean, like, yeah, that's kind of where, if I were to do stuff, that's where I would probably focus. And that's what Mike has been doing. He's been using that for Cami, and the renders are, and for Lino, oh my God, the renders are amazing. So yeah, there's no doubt that is where it's at. And again, if I ever get out of my own head, So what I want to do here before, again, I'm going to do probably some paint overs on him too, to kind of, actually hand paint some things, although I'm not great at that. But for now, what I want to do is just make him fit into the environment here. So I'm going to do a couple different things. One, I'm just going to do basically a color wash over him, and try and kind of like make him more a piece of his environment here. So I have this whole group, right? This is the whole Jack group. All the different passes are in that folder, right? And what I'm going to do basically is do a color wash or a gradient overlay that affects the whole folder, and then just kind of soak it in a little bit. So I'm just going to do I can actually use this exact same background that I painted. It's just not, it's not 100% opaque. So I'm just going to make a new layer over top of this and just do a quick gradient. So it's going to look stupid at first, but that's okay. So I'm just going to drag a gradient out here from up here to here, about where Jack is. And I'm just going to like choose colors that are relevant here. So I'm going to hide this just for a second. Not hide it. I'm going to turn it down a little bit for a second. So I'm going to turn it down to virtually 2%. That way I can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to select this little dot here, and let's go here to my properties here. And I'm going to come in here and just sample. I'm going to grab this little dot, double tap, and then come in here and sample, that color, right? And then I'm going to double tap on this little dot and sample that color. And then I'm going to add a dot in between, click, double tap, and then add that color. So basically, I'm just making a gradient that looks pretty much just like my background, right? And all I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Alt and click to kind of link that to this layer, my Jack folder. And by the way, you don't need to hold down Alt and click. You can also just You can also right click on this layer and just choose create clipping mask, and that'll also do the same thing. Then I'm going to change the blend mode to something like soft light, right? And then tone down the opacity to like, 30 or 40%. So now basically I'm just kind of, it's a very, very subtle effect here. I'm just kind of like letting these colors essentially be slightly infected by, the light around it. You can try a different blend mode too. I mean, you can try something like overlay. Overlay is just a little too harsh for me, but even that's not so bad. I'm going to go with soft light and just keep it down. This is just kind of a starting point to get the colors a little bit shifted toward what the environment is. And I'm going to do another adjustment layer here. I'm going to do hue and saturation, and just tone down the saturation a little bit just for now, just so that he's a little more keeping, in keeping with what's going on here, right? So now I want to start playing around with what he's doing in this background here. And I want this background to feel a little bit like there's something going on here. And this is one of those things where you could totally paint it. You could, photo bash it. You can do, whatever you want. I'm probably just going, I'm going to photo bash it. I'm going to find some images and just bring them in. Again, just try and make them feel like they're part of this whole environment here. I might do some painting too, but again, you don't need to see that kind of carnage. So I'm going to go here and start. I'm going to find some images here, and one of the things that I might see here, if I find something here. So I have some images that I found, like just some desert images, right? And I want to kind of like steal some of the image of the parts from that. So let's find this. So this desert landscape, for example. I'm going to bring this in and just pop it down here. So I'm going to come down again. I'm going to bring it behind Jack. So I'm on my little hills folder, but it's going to go on top of this. So I'm just going to paste this in and bring this down here. Scale this up so that I have the ground. This has like a watermark on it. So obviously I'm not going to be using a whole lot of this, but I can also just, fix that. I can just select this little area, do a generative fill, and it'll just probably fill it with something else. See what you got. I have different versions of hard surface modeling. Yeah, and I do too. But I'm just so used to using Maya's modeling tools, and using like the pop-up menus and like the right clicks and those kinds of things. And I just like it's just a matter. It's like my first language. I'm used to that, so it's not like it's better. I'm just used to it. But yeah, that's just kind of, leave me alone with the variations here. Okay, so now I'm just going to merge this down. So it keeps trying to teach me about this. I don't need this. Okay, go away. So I'm going to bring this in again. Same idea. Make a mask, and actually I'll make a black mask here. I prefer to paint stuff in. Now I'm not going to paint it in with a soft brush. I just feel like that's a little too fuzzy. So I'm going to go find a brush that is a little bit more like a little rougher. And again, obviously, you guys know you can find 1,000 brushes out there everywhere. I am using brush. I'm going to be using some brushes here that I got from Ryan Lang, who is an amazing artist. If you haven't seen him, he did a tutorial. He did a few on Gumroad, and I bought them all. And you should definitely all buy them because they're amazing. And I got some brushes for him. Some of them are just nice little, rough textury brushes. Yeah, and that's again, it's what it comes. Yeah, it's just really a matter of what you're used to. Again, when I say that Blender is inefficient, it's inefficient for me because it's not the same technique that I'm used to, and that is not Blender's fault. It's completely, just circumstance, right? But I can't, that's just what I'm used to, and I don't like change. So, this is kind of where I am. So I'm going to bring this in. I'm going to bring a little bit of this in. Again, I'm basically going to build myself an environment here that kind of corresponds very roughly with this. Some of these little foothills and stuff, I'll probably just leave like that because they're going to just be silhouettes. But I just want to, again, I just want to kind of get a feel for. I want this to feel like it's a place. So I found some desert rocks, and I'm just going to bring these in and just kind of steal them. I'll bring it right about here, right click and go to warp, and then scale this part up a little bit here, like this. There you go. Something like this. What I'm also going to do is go to liquefy. I love liquefy. Liquefy is such a great tool. Just come in here and just grab some of this and just pull. Just nudge. So again, luckily this was a PNG, so it already had some stuff, you know, it was already transparent. So I'm just going to, again, hold down Alt, paint that mask out. I probably should have done it the opposite way here, but I'm just going to do it this way. I'm going to bring this in a little bit here. And again, knock that part out here. So I want this to feel like it's part of this. Okay. So now we got this rock here. And again, I'm just going to do a couple more. And I'm sorry if this is repetitive, but I kind of really love the process of just building these rocks and bringing them in. I'm just going to lasso roughly out this little area right here. Copy it, paste. It's very small, but that's okay. Again, this is going to be largely in the background anyway, so it's okay. Now shift. Okay. And again, a little bit of watermarking going on here. This is where generative fill is probably ethically questionable, but I mean, I could use the clone stamp tool, or I could just paint over it. But it's not like I'm selling this. This is the fun watching the timeline, watching the progress bar part. It's exciting. I think what I'll probably just do is see. I mean, this is a little bit of overkill. I can also just use the patch tool. Patch tool is awesome, right? You just select the area that you want to fix. You drag it over to another area. Not you. I'll have to paste this down. That's another thing. I forgot that I had made the I had made that generative fill thing. I forgot that it makes its own layer. Layers. Okay. So now I'm using a patch tool. Select what you want to fix, drag it to a different part, and also use that as a guide to adjust that. Awesome. An idea here to bring it over here. It's not always. No, it's not all winners, but you know. Okay. So now I'm gonna come in here, and I'm just gonna go here with my lasso again. I'm just gonna kind of remove some of this. Again, I'm not really overly concerned with absolute fidelity to the original shape of the mountain. Who's gonna know? Something like that. Okay, and I'll make a mask. And now I'll just lightly paint out the little parts that are causing me problems. Like just remove them entirely. Okay. Now I'm gonna hide my hills just so I can see exactly what I'm doing. Now I'm going to come here and go back to my fuzzy brush, a soft round fuzzy brush here, and make sure it's set to transfer. And just going to come in here and lightly just start kind of like basically creating like a little mist in between to separate this from the next mountain we're going to do. I'm not going to do any more mountains obviously, but I just want to have a few. And I'm just going to kind of come in here and just really just make it a little bit more jagged. All right, there we go. So again, really rough, just starting out with some mountains here. I'm going to tone down the opacity a little bit so they're like a little bit more in the distance. And then I'll put a bigger, something a little bit bigger in the foreground just to kind of push everything back. And then we'll be probably good with the rocks. So let's go here about one more. Let's see if this one works. Here it is. Okay, then I'm just going to come here with my lasso. Just going to start by just chopping off the stuff I know I don't need. And then I could just choose select subject, but I'm just going to start getting rid of stuff based on color. Sometimes this little contextual taskbar can be great. Sometimes it's a little pain. Come in here and just move this back here. Come in here and just paint that out. Okay. I'm going to do a layer right on top of this. Actually, probably right below would be better, but I'm going to go here and just go to a dark brown, and just start kind of like throwing a little bit of this in there. That to multiply. So it's start darker. Right, just kind of get some shadowy areas in here real fast. Just going to make just a little hint of like a ground shadow here, just so you know. But yeah, I don't want to get too caught up in this, although this is kind of fun. Okay. All right, so I'm going to do a little bit of that same thing here in front of that other mountain here. Just going to make a new layer. Go to my fuzzy brush and just do a little hint of dust back there. I'm going to make this one a little bit faded too, because I just don't want it to be too, you know. All right, so again, it's not bad. I start to be a little bit more. A little more off to the side here. Something like that. Now I'm going to do with this. I'll make a layer around top of that. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make an adjustment layer on top of this guy. I'm going to make an adjustment layer, and I'm going to try something like exposure. I'm going to crank up the exposure like this, and then link it just to this guy here. And then again, I'm going to make my mask black, so I'll hit Control-I to invert. And then I'll get my paintbrush, and I'll get my little rough edge brush here, and just bring in a little hint of that. I'm going to kind of like paint in some of that exposure to kind of make it seem like some light just hitting this little guy here. Just kind of illuminate this little area here. I can do the same thing in the opposite direction too, right? I can kind of do another exposure layer, exactly the same thing, link it, make it dark, and then I invert the mask, and then paint in where I want this to be somewhat darker. Okay. It's a little fringe on that mask there, so I'm just going to Control click this layer to get all the pixels, and then I'm going to go here to Selection, Modify, and I'm going to contract by 1 pixel. And I'll invert that selection and make sure that in the actual mask here, I paint black to just get rid of whatever fringe was there. I might need to increase my selection by a little bit more because that 1 pixel just was not doing it. So and by 2. And now I'm just going to paint black and see if I can get rid of that. Just want to get rid of that little white fringe. That feels better. Okay. All right. So again, just kind of like trying to get myself a little bit hint of some scenery here. And again, now I'm going to go back to my hills, and the one there's going to be some that I want to keep, right? So I'm going to hide the ground here. I'm going to hide that one. Yeah. So this one here. I'm going to bring this up a little bit. Obviously, do some adjustments, but I just want to have this as kind of like my background foothills. So I'm going to delete that. I'm just going to way down like that too. Well. So again, just like something in the distance. I might even just for funsies. Make it a little bit more. All right, there we go. There's something in the background. Yes, thank you. And Ben, thank you. Hopefully it works out. You don't know. important to know that, and again, like, especially when it comes on like performing things, I'm constantly thinking, well, I don't know. I don't know if this is gonna, not the slightest clue. I'm gonna make this multiply just for a second. This color is not the one I want to stick with, but bring that down a little bit. I want this to be in front of this one in the back, so I'm just going to go on the mask for the one in the back, and just with it, because I'm using transparency, it makes them feel like they're far away. Obviously, when they overlap, that kind of gives away the game. So I need to like need to kind of go where they overlap and hide, hide the one behind it. So realize that I'm using transparency, so like they're far away. So again, that'll work. I'm gonna go here and then right click and go to warp. I just want to grab this one and kind of pull this up a little bit more. So this makes a little more of a steep thing here. All right. Who knows what the heck I'm even doing? Let's go another layer on top of this really fast. Brush, soft, light color, and just a little bit more of a little misty thing here to kind of knock that back, just to knock that back. All right, so all of this was about making the background. Now, there's little bits of mist that I did. I guess it's called mist. White was not really what I'm going for, right? So I need to colorize this a little bit. So I'm just going to go back here and choose my brush. I'm going to sample maybe this kind of a lighter color, and I'm going to paint a little more of a dusty tone back here instead, because that white was a good starting point, technically, I guess, in terms of like the idea was there, but it was definitely looked like it was ridiculously bright for that. Now I have to find out where I put the other. What is this thing? Oh, these are some of my other ones that you don't want. Okay, nice. So I was wondering what the heck was going on there. So I'm trying to figure out where this little guy is. This is why you should label your layers. Okay. How many more layers can there be that I'm missing? Folks, I'm confused. All right, so let's see. That's what it is. Okay, well, at least things make sense. Okay, so what I'm seeing here is that this guy here is kind of casting a bit of a shadow here, because the transparency was showing through. Okay, things do make sense again. I do wish I knew where that other bit of fog was, though. Don't worry, people. This will make sense eventually. This is literally doing nothing. Okay. All right. Well, hey guys. Okay, it's right there. I must have seen it right there. Nice. All right. Again, the world does make sense. Put the layer on top here. And the reason why nothing was happening is because I was using the eraser. People don't be like me. You're better than me. Okay. Stylus, Ram. I remember Stylus for a long time, and I didn't realize that was even like still in use. I used to like Stylus, really interesting. And it was one of those ones I remember watching some his name now. Shoot. But he used to do a lot of tutorials. He did some, and he used Stylus all the time. It was like a subdivision. It was like a subdivision surface modeling, I thought. Really kind of cool. All right, so this is part of our background. Right, so I'm just going to make this all a group here. So now I want to kind of play around with, again, this is really good, but I want to create a little bit of a sky, and I want to do then some stuff that he's like kind of, swirling up some stuff. Yo, Orlando, what's up, man? See, this Yo show up. I want to use some clouds here. Now again, there are some cloud brushes, obviously. and but they're also like so. There's some interesting brushes. I will say this. Um, so, for example, this is on a new layer here. I have brushes that are essentially just like ready-made skies, which is interesting. Not really what I'm going for, but it's interesting that you kind of like you can essentially just take a picture of a sky and make a brush out of it. To be clear, I did not make these brushes, but um, it's actually kind of neat that you can just, get these kind of things. In fact, this is actually kind of cool. I'm going to use that orange color for some of these clouds here. You can see here it's got kind of a cool look. I'm going to go here to a darker color, and I would like this to be a little bit on the edge, but it's okay. So you can see that you can kind of get like a black and white sky, or a sky that's high, with kind of high contrast. You can do some really cool stuff. You can just kind of make them into a brush, which is kind of neat. I'm gonna grab these. I kind of like these. I don't know if I'm going to use them, but I like this. Something like that. I'm going to go with the purples. Cooler way to go. Like that. Okay, so I'm going to come here and then change it to that lighter color, and then hit that with a little bit of a highlight. And obviously you can see that there are some issues with this in the sense that they have a very hard edge. So first thing I'm going to do is get rid of some of that. I'm going to mask that out. But it's kind of a cool little way to get some really quick skies. These are sky brushes, which is kind of neat. I'm going to go here to a darker color here, purple. And I'm going to see about bringing in some brushes here. I don't know for sure whether it's going to work or not. Instead of, I want to try and kind of paint in a little hint of clouds. So let's see if I can find a cloud brush. There's a million cloud brushes, obviously, but special effects brushes. This is smudge brush. Okay, let's go to an actual brush. Cloud, there it is. I probably should have looked at the one called cloud. No, it's not set up. We've got our brush settings here. I'm going to go to our shape dynamics. I'm going to crank up the angle jitter a little bit. Now I'm going to go with a lighter color on a different layer and just try and hit that with a little bit of a highlight type of thing. We're going to get a little hint of a little bit of the color dodge, maybe. Overlay, yeah, overlay's kind of cool. Okay. So again, all this is just a little attempt to play around with sky type stuff. I want to try. And again, these brushes, I forget where I got them, but like they're basically these are essentially just like images of clouds that you can then turn into brushes. But I just think it's kind of neat. And I kind of think it's fun to kind of experiment with these kinds of things. So, okay, so let's go with that for now. And again, this is just, I just want to have the background feel a little bit like there's something going on. And I'm going to grab all my skies here and group them sky, just because you can see probably I have to make a mask for this. And some of the clouds are kind of coming in front of the mountains here, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but in this case, I'm kind of don't want them to be in front of these mountains. All right. So let's pretend now that he is kind of raising himself up, and and doing some stuff. Like I mentioned, I want to kind of have some kind of mystical, magical stuff happening here. This is going to be a bit of a challenge because I don't I'm gonna be honest, I don't really have much of a clue how I'm gonna do this because I want this to be, I want the mystical stuff, the little pink stuff to kind of show up. And it's kind of a bright theme. So one of the things you can do, of course, I can just bring it in. I can kind of try and create, like, bring in images of like swirly energy stuff, which is not a bad idea. I'm going to try and do that. I want to bring in some dust and debris and all that kind of stuff. There's some really cool brushes for that. So let's just kind of see about things like actual energy stuff. Again, it's one of those things where I'm going to try it. It might not work. I might say, you know what, not so great. But I did go and find some images of kind of basically just like energy swirly stuff. So I'm just going to try that and see how that looks. So you see here in my FX here, I found some like swirly things, right? And I don't know how they're going to look. So I figured I'd just give it a shot. So these are just like running online, obviously, as you can see. And I just want to kind of see what they do, right? So I'm just going to grab one of these. Grab this one. And bring it in here. Fill it up. Right. So like something like this, right? Where it's kind of the foundation that's in coming off the rim. Something like this. Okay. Obviously I'm going to bring this on top of the environment, right below Jack. And I'll set the blend mode, to screen, or add. Add is very bright, as you can see. Screen is not so bright, but screen retains, I think, the color a little bit. And now I'm going to adjust the color, right? So I'm just going to, now what I'm going to do is, instead of using adjustment layers over and over and over again, what I'm going to do is turn this to a smart object. Smart objects basically are layers that have history. So you can go back and adjust the things you've done to it as opposed to it being destructive. So if I right click on here and choose convert to smart object, it gets this little icon on it. And now whatever I do, if I were to do like a polarization or whatever, it's not like permanent, it just kind of like held in history in memory, so you kind of go back and adjust it after that. So I'll go to image adjustments and do a hue and saturation for this and turn on colorize and clean up the saturation, right? And go to pink a little bit. You can see here it's in the history of this, so I can just double tap on hue and saturation and I can adjust it again. So it's kind of cool that it kind of retains that, right? So this is kind of an idea here. And again, I can go to, say, for example, liquefy, right? And I can kind of liquefy, I can kind of push it around. I can even go to like the swirl, which is kind of like ZBrush's spiral brush, which will get some really cool, effects that way as well. So like I can kind of like just play around with that. I don't think I want to twirl that, but I think it's kind of a cool thing to be able to do. I might do a little bit of twirl here. Let's put it smaller here. Destroying this board thing. There we go. Okay. So again, I'm gonna have a little bit of this. I'm gonna bring in a few of these little guys. Obviously, I'm not gonna like make this feel like it's a bigger deal than just one little bit of stuff. But that's kind of the idea that I'm playing around with. Like this is one of the things where, and I don't know if you've had this situation too, but like when I want to sculpt something in ZBrush, and I want to kind of create that illusion of like energy, swirly things, I can never figure out like how to make it look like there's a lot of stuff going on. It always feels like I'm just sculpting hair. I'm going to go with screen again here, and again just kind of like get a little bit of. Now what I want to do with this, I want to try and get fancy a little bit here. So I'm going to go to warp and bring it this way, and I want to kind of like make it swirl in front of the boot, so it feels like it's wrapping around, So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring it in front of Jack. And I'll make sure it's all the way with Jack, so it's not linked to Jack. And now I'm just going to kind of like mask out this little area right here. So all I'm going to do is go to my trusty clown path, right, and magic wand, set on the boot like that. clown pass still coming in handy. And now I can come right here and with my brush in the mask at the black, right, I can kind of ink out that stuff. So now, it's passing behind and in front, so it's kind of wrapping around them, which is kind of what I wanted to do. And I'm going to do, again, right click, convert to smart object, and then do another hue saturation adjustment. So I'm going to shift this to the pink, like this. Now again, if I want this to be like brighter and so forth, I can just duplicate this whole layer, Control J, and then maybe change this one to add. So then it gets even brighter, right? I can kind of tone it down a little bit if I need to. So you can kind of get this looking kind of like, a little bit more vibrantly and visually colored just by duplicating the layers, because the brightness set to add, for example, even screen, just builds on itself a little bit. If you use add, it just kind of, it really kind of blows it out a little bit. So again, maybe it just kind of gives you a little extra push. So I want to have this kind of a thing happening. Let me just see something. I want to grab this layer and paste it. I want to see if, oops, let me paste that in place. Okay, I want to see how much this swirled. So maybe, again, I'm trying to get fancy here, guys, because I can't help myself. I want this to swirl a little bit, and I want this to reach around again, I want this also to kind of reach around the boot a little bit. So I want this to kind of feel like the swirl is wrapping around his foot. So basically all I'm doing with this one is I'm going to kind of try and bring this part around this part like this. Okay, so now if I turn this off, you see this is happening right there. All I want to do is bring this part here. So again, I'll hit Alt, make a mask. That way I can just paint in just that little area right there where I wanted it. Again, this is so silly, but I just can't help myself. I want to feel like it's, coming around. And again, where it's kind of like, it's hard to kind of have it not go through the boot. Well, we have the clown pass, so I'll go back to the clown pass, magic wand, select the parts of the boot, go back to this mask, paint black, right, and get rid of that. There you go. So now, and again, if I want this to be a little bit brighter, you know what to do, right? Control J, duplicate it, now it's brighter. So I just wanted to have it fly up a little bit. So again, obviously this is like not very exciting down here at all, which is fine. We're going to fix that. One, we can have more of these, and I'm going to, but I also have a few others that I think would be kind of good for that. So something like this spiral thing, could be kind of like the base, like the big swirly vortex that he's coming from, and these other things are like a tendril coming up. And again, remember I'm saying this as if I know what I'm talking about. So let's see what we got here. So I want to go here. This is going to be, it doesn't really matter if it's the low jack or not, because it's going to be, I'm going to go, I can't do it in the folder jack, right, because that mask will keep it from showing up. So let's bring this in. This I'm going to just bring below here. So now, obviously, this needs to be adjusted for perspective as well, right? So Control T, and then I'm going to right click, and I'm going to go to perspective distortion, and I'm going to just hold it like this. Like this, okay? Then go back to my retransform, go down Shift, so I can squash it like this. So basically, I'm trying to kind of get it something like this, right? Where I can kind of make it feel like it's part of the scene. So I'm going to go back to perspective distortion here and just do a little bit of this, right? Like that. And now I'm going to go to screen, and I'll do another, my colorization again. So this is a good starting point for this, I think. I'm going to go here and once again, right click, convert to smart object. Again, this is so that when I do my adjustments, I can go back and tweak them after the fact without it being a destructive thing. So hue and saturation. Oh, again, I could choose colorize, or I could just shift the hue, right? So I'm going to shift the hue to something like this. I don't know if colorize makes it better or not. I just don't know if I don't know that it matters, but okay, we'll go colorize. Okay, you convince me. I'll go to colorize, and again, we'll just duplicate this maybe duplicate it again, just to kind of get us started here. And what I'm going to do now is right below those 3 layers. I gotta start naming these things, to be honest. That's still that. We'll call this base below 3. Base below 4, base below 2. It's not base below. Okay, so, all right. So all I'm going to do now is make a new layer and pop it right behind that. And I'm just going to have this be essentially like, I'm going to just brute force it, honestly. I'm just going to come in here with my brush and see how this works. And just kind of come in here and just like start throwing in a little, you know, a little bit of that. And then a little bit of pink around there. Okay, set the blend mode to something like add. Maybe screen. Maybe not so much. And then, oh, geez, I was trying to do my eraser. You guys knock that back a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to give it a little bit of something. I still have some other things I want to do with this, but another thing you can do, and I don't know how well this is going to work either, but let's give it a shot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this layer and I'm going to duplicate it. So I want this to be really, really kind of like, this is going to look a little nuts. I'm duplicating it twice, and I'm going to grab 2 of those duplicates and merging them. And all I'm going to do with this is I want to blur this in a direction, right? So I'm going to bring this up here just so you can see what I'm doing with this here. And I just want to blur it, right? So what I'm going to do is go to filter. Again, it's going to work out really good. Let's go. So I want this to kind of be in the center. And I want to go with blur. I want to go with radial blur. And I want to do a zoom. Yeah, it didn't do a whole lot. Let's do it a couple more times here. Okay, actually, this, if I do it a few times, basically what it's doing is, right, it's zooming, is blurring it from the center out. So it's kind of giving me this kind of like this God ray thing. So if I rotate this around now, and I get kind of like this, it's kind of like coming upward from this, right? Kind of like that. It's kind of cool. It works pretty well. You know, there are other portals, Ram, but you're probably right. True. They've ruined portals forever now. Now it's just like whenever you see a portal, that's what you're gonna think. So I want to have a little bit more of a deformed thing here, kind of like this. Okay. Let's go back to screen here. So again, we're getting a little bit more of a thing happening here. We can do this as much as we want, right? I mean, this is not really that tricky of a thing. We can make as many of these. I can go, for example, to my cloud brush and kind of, you know, build this out here and just set the blend modes on my screen, and it'll just, you know, just be, again, my cloud brush. I was wondering why cloud brush is acting so weird. It's not set up to be a cloud brush, which is weird because you would think that's kind of the purpose of a cloud brush, but it's not set to change the angle. So that's not what I want. There you go. So just get a little bit of this going on. And you can see here now, if I keep doing this, this pink stuff here on the arms is going to start making more sense, right? So let's go back to this. Let's see if I can bring this in and just do a little bit more with it. Now, again, I mentioned before that this is often the kind of thing that I tend to get a little carried away with, because one, it's fun, but you know, it's easy to kind of forget why you're doing it. You know, the reason you're doing it is to make a picture that looks cool. Sometimes I forget that, and I think the reason is to see how much crap I can fit in a single canvas. So it is important to know that I'm acutely aware of the fact that I'm probably veering toward going a little overboard, but I'm also okay with that. So, you know, take what you can get. I kind of want this to be a little bit, wondering if it makes sense to kind of have something like have something like this, kind of like swelling up from there, you know, like he's kind of coming out of that. And I think I like that. I think I like that. I think again I can just go to, and this is again this is so much fun. Liquify is such a great tool for stuff like this, where you can just kind of, you know, take it and just mush it around, especially when the whole point of this is for it to be mushed around. You know, so I get little swirly things going on. I don't know if I need to do the liquify part, but again, I kind of like this idea that it's almost like this vortexy thing. It's just kind of like out of control, um, which is again kind of neat. I haven't decided yet, but I do think that's kind of neat. I might duplicate this and try to see what happens if I put this one behind him. And by the way, if you're wondering, it's because it's a smart object and it kind of retains the memory of what it was originally. Whenever you go into like say transform mode or something like that, it kind of reverts to its original form. And then when you finally hit accept, it kind of like goes through, you know, all the history again to kind of reestablish what's what. So that's why, in case you're wondering why, like when I do the transform stuff, it goes back to being orange. That's why. So what I want to do with this one is just scale this way down. So I'm just going to drag this behind him. This is really more of a way of kind of like fleshing it out a little bit more. So I'm going to go behind Jack here. And then I'm just going to nudge it a little bit. So this still feels like too obvious. So just going to have a little bit more. This is really cool. You can load it, or you can kind of pucker it in like a pinch tool. Right. There you go. I just wanted it to be a little bit something behind him like that. Okay. So again, this is where like I wanted him to be in terms of like him coming out. Now I want him to kind of feel again like there's actually stuff happening here. So I want to kind of bring in some dust and some debris and that kind of stuff, and kind of make it feel like everything's actually flowing around him. You can again, I'm tempted. I'm tempted to try more. I'm tempted to kind of try to wrap these things around his arms, because that's kind of where his power does come from. No, you have to do these things. It's important. You know, this is a smart object as well. And put this to screen. Never forget it, Ben. You go to dinner, come back. You never know. You never know what you're going to get. So again, because this is a smart object, I can colorize it and do whatever I want. Not have to worry about losing the original of it if I don't, you know, if I want to get it back. And because it's a smart object, again, every time you deform it or whatever, while you're deforming it, it reverts back to its original look. So, you know, don't be freaked out if you're wondering why it suddenly. I'm gonna dig. I'm sorry. I'm losing track of my thoughts, but I'm having fun with this. This is actually kind of cool. We'll work this around here. Now, again, I'm gonna make part of this behind him, right? So, let's go here. Let's bring my trusty clown pass back. I'm gonna bring the clown pass out of everything because it makes sense to keep it here. So I want the blue, the face. You know what? Before I do that, let me mask first. Blame you guys. Your fault. Let's go here. Select. All right, so now I want this to, again, to be behind, not the brush I was going for. In case you're curious, that was not the brush I was hoping for. I want this to go behind his hand, so I'm going to mask out that part. Make sure I just mask out. Oh, jeez. Weird. Okay, I was in the wrong spot. Let's go over this. What do I do? Let's not have any of that. All right, so there you go. And I think I want to keep that, but lose that. It's like we're showing off here. I want it to feel like it's wrapping around his hand, and over to that. Yeah, it's kind of fancy. It's kind of fancy. The argument can be made that it's overboard, and I wouldn't argue with that. But you know, I mean, look at the outfit this guy's wearing. Are we really worried about going overboard with a guy wearing this outfit? I don't think so. This is going to be for his other arm. Smart object. It took me a long time to understand what the heck a smart object even was. It kind of bothered me to see people using them. Like, stop using this thing. I don't know what it is, and I don't want to learn. And now that I kind of have started using it, I realize, oh yeah, okay, I get it. Okay, so now let's do that same kind of thing here. I want this to wrap around certain things. So what I want this to be behind the forearm. So let's grab this. Not that. All right, there you go. You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to make a mask. That's okay. I'm gonna put down Alt to make a mask. So basically, I'm making a mask. Oh no! I want to do it that way. I'll make a mask so it's home. What am I even doing, guys? All right. Anyway, let's figure out what I want to do. I'm just gonna make a mask and just paint out what I don't want, for God's sakes. All right. So obviously, we don't want this to be visible where the belt is, because he's in front of this. His belt is in front of this whole situation here. So come here, black. Did I not select the thinking things? All right, fine. There we go. Okay, black. Paint that out. Get out of my way. I don't want to see that here. Obviously, we don't want this here. We do want that, right? Okay. All right. And now we're going to do our hue saturation, or Control U. You want to get really fancy. Of course, this will probably be on the layer, not the mask, before I do that. Mr. Fancy. A bit of pink there, and I think because I can't quite help myself here. I want to go into the liquify again. I'm going to come in here and turn on show backdrop, so it'll kind of show me where this is. That way I can kind of see exactly what it is I'm working around. I just kind of be a little bit more extreme. Now there is a smooth tool, which I think tends to kind of like just clean up a little bit. Let's see if it looks any better. Yeah, I just want it to be a little bit more swirly, right? I feel like, I feel like I must be boring the crap out of people. So I feel like I'm always constantly like worried about that. So again, I apologize in advance. All right, so I mentioned about the eyes. So we're getting a little bit, again, we've added some energy stuff here. I want to add a little bit more kind of swirling around here, but I do want to kind of get his eye a little bit interesting too. So do I dare? I don't even know. This is stupid. I want you to know that I know that this is stupid. All right, I just want you to know that I know. You know, unless you try it, you just don't know. Here, let's put this in the eye where it belongs here. Now I just duplicated it, and now I'm going to do it this one, and I'm going to blur it a little bit, about 3 or 4 pixels. And then I'm going to, I have to make this, I should have made it a smart object first, and I didn't. So I'm going to make this smart object. And then I'm going to, because I'll make this smart object, why? Because I'm going to duplicate this layer again, which is also a smart object. And then I'm going to blur it again. At this point, I'm going to blur it more. I'm going to blur it instead of 4 pixels, I'm going to blur it like 8 pixels, right? Then I'm going to duplicate this again. Then I'm going to blur this one a little bit more. So like the more versions of this that you duplicate and the more you blur it, the more kind of like subtle you make the glow, which is kind of cool. I'm going to grab these guys here and just nudge them over a little bit. Yeah, so that kind of works. Now, one of the other things you can do, I don't know how else can work either. I'm going to go to the original one here. I'm going to duplicate the original one once more, just for now. And I'm going to use the smudge tool. And the smudge tool is kind of like the name implies. You can kind of just grab the paint and just kind of pull it. And just kind of like, it's very subtle, but I'm just pulling out little bits of that light in these different directions. So I'm just going to just smudging the paint. That's really all I'm doing. And you can change the nature of your brush as well. Thanks, Ram. I really do appreciate that, man. I just, again, I always, you know, I find myself dull, so I figure everyone else does too. So this is kind of, again, this is kind of a cool way. Just like you can, you bring in, you know, you can, it could be just something that you paint, but if you duplicate it a few times and blur it successfully more each time, it tends to work pretty well as kind of like a glow. Now, before I get too far, I just want to look at some of the other renders of my guy, because I want to see if I have a version of him where his non-glowy eye is visible. I don't know that I have. I don't know how many of them might have, might have shown up that way. So I'm going to take a look here. All right, that's kind of okay. So that one does. I'm sorry. I just want to I want to bring in. I want to have a version of his eye that is actually visible in case I want to, because he does have an iris. He does have an eye. You just can't tell by looking at where I currently am. So I just want to kind of see. Okay, the light left looks like it's got a pretty decent image of it. So, all right, so let's bring in that. I just want to have a version of the eye here, just because it's driving me crazy that it's just completely vanished. So, and by the way, like you may have noticed that by the way, I realized that the left one, I don't think I selected it and copied it and put that done. You may have noticed that, when I started this out, I was very organized with my layers, and those layers were organized. And now, I mean, I just got 1,000 of them everywhere. That is exactly what that's how it works. The more complex. Speaking of, I should probably say this. The more complex, like the scene, or the more stuff you come up with, like the more absolutely just anarchic I should say, Photoshop document becomes. So it's just all right. So there we go. So all that was just so that I could get that eye in there. I can adjust it a little bit. It's not, I want to add a little bit of actual iris in there. I mean, pupil in there as well. So I'm just going to just literally just add a little bit of black in there. And then just a little bit crazy. And then we're going to, of course, add a little thingy. Blue, the blend mode to multiply so that I can do a little darkening down here. Okay, it was just bugging me that I couldn't see his eye. All right, so let's play around again. I do want to kind of at some point getting in there and actually do some like highlighting and painting on the stuff, because some of the stuff feels a little unexciting. Which actually might be where that. Oh, I never run into red and the reflection. Ooh. Okay, yeah, let's see the reflection. So this one, what I'm noticing is, I don't know if it's going to work or not, but what I'm noticing is this feels a little flat right here. And I know I have a couple of lighting setups here where I can get some of that to show up, but I wanted to see about this one too. I want to kind of like get a little bit of the rim, the edges to kind of pop a little bit, and I don't know if it's going to work or not, but I kind of think it might. I'm going to go to color dodge, I think. That's to make that go away entirely, and then just bring a little bit of that in here. Go back to the well, when you're trying to paint white, don't have your brush set to multiply it, in case you're curious. A little hint of like little hot light spots hitting there. A little bit on the face here too. Oh, I like that. Okay. All right. I feel a little bit better. Not much, but a little bit better. Okay, now let's bring in some stuff. Let's kind of like let's mess this place up a little bit now. So before I do, let's just I have to clean this up a little bit, because a lot of stuff that is just all kinds of messed up, like in terms of like my layers here. So I don't even know what I'm turning off and on right now. Okay. Oh, it's got all the human side. This is all my pink stuff. So let me just, I want to grab all this. I'm going to group this here. We call this, energy stuff, because that helps. Okay, so let's bring in some dust and debris and stuff like that. I'm going to use noise for depth. Probably, yeah. That is probably what I want to do. One of the things I want to do is I am going to have to do at least like some blurring, right? Some background blurring. But like I want to just, there's certain things like I want to do, and I know I'm going to forget, so make sure I do them. And one of the things is bring in some dust and stuff like that. So now this is one of those things. Obviously, there are pictures, like there are overlays you can do, there are brushes you can use. So for example, in my case, I have brushes that do this too, but I have like a whole bunch of folders and stuff that I've collected, and I bought these recently. I think it was one of those Instagram sales, and I did it, but it was actually pretty good. So for example, I have things like dust overlays and smoke and that kind of stuff, and embers and all that kind of crap. So like under dust, for example, again, lots of like little just bits of stuff here. Smoke, I think smoke overlays might have been one that was pretty good. Atmosphere overlays, I noticed atmospherics, it's kind of cool as well. Really all I want is dust. So let me see if I have, I know that I say dust, but it's really like clouds of dust. So I don't know about that for this. This is like speckly dust, which is not what I'm going for. So maybe not that. And we need to do it the old-fashioned way. Just do it and just dealing with that. One more time. Look at the smoke one more time here. Right. Some of these might be useful in some form or other. So we'll start with this and see if we get to work. If not, we'll do it manually. This smoke just feels too close up. So no, let's do it the old way. Okay, so I'm going to make a new layer on top of everything here. Get on my brush, and now again I have a bunch of brushes that I know do stuff. So like again, I have dust brushes here. I have, where is the special effect? Dynamic fog. Dynamic fog is very cool, I think. Now I'm going to do this in a weird color just for now so I can see it better. So you can see here, this is just, again, it just creates dust, right? So I'm going to sample like the background color here, and just kind of a lighter version of that. Just kind of a sandy color. And just going to kind of start kicking up some dust here. Then I'll do a little bit of some darker dust as well, but not over the stuff that's supposed to be bright, right? So I'm going to go slightly less dark, but I want a little bit of like dirt stuff in the air here. And now I also want to do some debris, like some particles and that kind of stuff. Again, you can easily paint that in. Just want to see if there's something here. So in this case here, the dust overlay. Let's see, for example, if one of these things works. See, this is not what I want. This is like snow. It's like snow. What the heck am I going to do with snow? I have to paint it like a sucker. Okay, so I'm going to make on a new layer here. And you can see here again, this brush is basically just a bunch of little specks, which is actually really cool. A couple different dust brushes here. A little bit lighter. I really can't see anything. Let's go. I have a bunch of dust brushes here, but I know that the Ryan Lang brushes. Ryan Lang, I'm telling you, man, if you haven't seen his stuff, go to Gumroad. I think it's probably still there. These brushes are just, again, they're very straightforward. He doesn't do anything fancy, but they're just so good. I'm gonna get some dust in here, maybe some darker stuff. Again, this is all gonna be blurred probably a little bit. It's just like it's gonna be stuff, kind of like in action. I'm gonna go a little bit lighter here, coming down from his hands. Right. And what I also would like to do, oh gosh, I'm telling you, man, it's a lot of it is like, is from just over the years, but some of it totally I just like bought like just a collection of folders, and it's one of those things where 6 of them are awesome, and the rest of them are nothing. But it's not a bad thing. I wonder if I should. Possible I should. Whoa, wait! I can't hear you. You have to make sure I can hear you. Nope. What's going on? Are you miming? People, Mike Thompson just jumped in, but he's not. And he's talking. I think either that or he's doing his Marcel impression, which is very good. I'm not gonna lie. Where's Is it me? Am I muting you somehow?
I'm gonna need you to calm down over there.
There you go.
Also, when I come in, it completely screws up your screen, so that's not good. There you go. Now, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, good.
I'm sure. Yeah, you know what it is? Because I double-clicked on my screen to to maximize the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because we haven't that process out yet, right?
I saw you over there illustrating. You can't be out illustrating me on my channel, so I just thought I'd hop in here and tell you to calm your ass down a little bit.
I was talking about exactly how much of a whiny little bee I have been about Blender, but there's some seriously crazy renders going on with Lino that the people need to see.
Dude, the renders are real.
Yes,
renders are real. No, you're doing a great job. I didn't want anything. I just come in here to mess with you. Well, and do my Obama impression. Hey everybody. That's all I got. That's all I got for the whole night.
Well, again, I only got 15 minutes, man. You might as well just tell us what you've been up to.
Hang out for a minute. I'm over here in Blender actually doing renders.
You're doing Blender renders?
Yeah, Blender renders.
We had a little issue before where Mike was looking to show me how he rendered in Blender. And folks, you'll never forget, you'll never believe this, but he couldn't find the file.
Yeah. I think I messed up your audio too. I think I got you doing an echo because I'm in here. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to come in here and derail you, dude.
You're nothing but trouble, dude. Like you show up.
That's what Maricat tells me. Let me see if I can fix this. Jeez. All right. Hold on, I'm gonna fix this. Okay, how's this better?
Let me see. Can you hear me? Oh yeah, much better. There's no echo when I'm talking to you.
Nice. Okay, one day I'll get it.
Yeah.
So we just got back from getting dinner. So what I miss? Give me the whole show in the last 15 minutes.
So the whole show was, the last time I did a paintover, it was just like my little dude, and he was just kind of like sitting there in front of a little background, like he wasn't doing anything. And okay. I wanted to kind of like say, okay, what if he actually existed in a scene, kind of a thing,
mm-hmm.
And that was so so I started kind of like building my scene. I just photo bashed essentially a scene together. Tried to do a little color correction. Tried to bring in some brushes and effects so it felt a little more realistic-ish. And we met with varying degrees of success and utter failure.
Yeah.
Which
I see.
Again, that's in my wheelhouse, man. That's where that's where most of my stuff ends up. Some good, some not.
Yeah.
We learn.
Have you been clicking on people's names to show the things? Because I don't think you can see them if you don't.
Yes, I have.
Okay, good. Okay. Hey, let me come in the last 5 minutes and Monday morning quarterback your ass. Hey, Brad. Don't forget to click on the thing.
You tried this?
Yeah, exactly. No, it's looking great, man. What's up, everybody?
Thanks, man. I just wanted to feel like he was doing something. I was playing around with just trying to, again, like we photo bashed this whole thing, and it was cool. It's fun to kind of experiment with basically like a keyframe from a imagined film of some sort.
Yeah, the same problem I had with Ian is happening with me now with these headphones. For whatever reason, it cuts out in here, only in here. So, hey, listen, I'm gonna let you wrap it up.
All right.
You doing a great job. Keep doing what you're doing. Everybody, Gus, Jamie, O, take care.
Yeah, man.
All right. Good job, man. Peace. I can say that and I don't know how to get out of the room. Okay. All right. Later, man.
All right. Well,
talk tomorrow.
Yeah, he says that. And then he's like,
it always tells me I can't log out. All right, I'm just gonna leave. I'm gonna shut down the thing. Hopefully, I don't end Brad's broadcast.
Yeah, if he does, it's a nice scene.
If he does, I'm sure Raul won't let me hear the end of it. All right, see you, man.
See you, man. He says it again. Okay, there you go. So again, I had to add a light source behind him just because I thought we were having no little sun. The door says push mic. This is my favorite thing to do in Photoshop now. It's these color lookups. I don't know if I don't know. I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but there's adjustment layers, but like they just like bring in completely different color schemes. Like there's a bunch stuff. Some do not. Some apparently turn the whole screen black. But yeah, I can cycle through it again. Like there's one called Crisp Warm, which is really cool. Crisp Winter is always cool. Not so much for this one, but like you can get some really cool just overall color correction with this. I kind of thought was cool. The Drop Blues one makes all of his swirlies completely lose all their pink, which is not what we're going for. But yeah, I mean, it's really, obviously you want to tone down some of the effects, but they're really kind of cool, and they do a pretty cool job of like giving you some immediate looks that you might not have thought of, and they kind of like punch up certain things, add contrast and so forth. No idea what half of them like what they're going to do, given to your thing, which is kind of the fun part. You can just see because you might find that like a whole different color scheme could be kind of cool, right? So. And it's like this to me. It's like when like you go to the eye doctor and they say, "Is this better or is this better?" And I can never really tell. And I feel like I feel pressure to get it right. Same idea here. I'm like, wait, there was one that I loved, and then I can't find it. And they're like, wait, did I ever love one? I can't really sure. But like I like one of these is kind of cool. What I want to do. This is weird, but I don't want it to be overly saturated just because I feel like when it's overly saturated, it feels very fake. So, like Crisp Warm really overly saturates everything, which is a shame. I kind of dig that one. But this one here, like this one of these little Fuji ones, is kind of cool. It just kind of like it punches up a little bit. Now the cool thing about this is you can actually change the blend width of this as well, right? So I can change something like overlay or soft light. So even though it's just an adjustment layer, you can actually have it do, you can actually change the way it applies to different things, which means you can kind of have this affect different parts of the, you can just mask out or mask in different parts of this, right? You can kind of get these adjustment layers to do different things in different parts. So for example, this soft light, again, it kind of actually gets a pretty cool bit of contrast here in certain areas here, which I kind of like. It kind of blows it out a little bit, but it's not so bad. And I wanted to kind of like bring down a little bit of the darks here. So I'm doing a curve adjustment just to kind of bring some of the darks in a little bit more, and then maybe that color look a little bit better now. But yeah, so again, definitely kind of fun to kind of play around with these different blend modes here, these different adjustment layers. But this is pretty cool. So again, I think this is pretty. It's for 2 hours we're getting there, right? So all I want to do really is just play around really quickly with just some little highlights here, because again, he's got this pink stuff. There's one thing I want to show you, and again, it's like 10 minutes, so I think it's enough time to kind of mess around with this. Just to let you know, if you do have Adobe stuff, if you do have access to things like After Effects, I just want to show you something that's kind of neat. So I'm going to send this out as an image. So I'm going to go here and Control-Shift-Alt-W, which is export as. I'm going to export this out as a PNG in 6 to 8 weeks from this thing finally fills up. There we go. JPEG's fine, but I'm going to go PNG. And I just want to kind of play around with something really fast. And again, might not end up using it. fine. But it's actually kind of neat to experiment with a cool little way to make visual effects. And I'm going to do it actually in After Effects, which again, if it's, it's probably part of the same Adobe package if you have it. Let me just go and export this out really fast. All right, so let's go here into After Effects really quickly. And this won't take very long. I just want to show you something which might be kind of useful. And this is, it's a plugin from Video Copilot, but it's a free plugin, so it's definitely really cool. What's really cool too about using After Effects sometimes is for things like that dust cloud that I wanted. I have little footage clips of smoke and dust and particles, and you can just go into After Effects and kind of scrub through the timeline of that until you find a frame that you like, and then export out the picture with that particular bit of video overlays on there, which is probably what I'm going to do, because again, that's kind of a cool way to do this. So we're going to boot up After Effects. It's taking its time. Okay, so After Effects right here, and I'm going to go to New Project, New Composition from Footage. That way I can just bring in that image that we just sent out. So let's do that. All right. So basically, this is just a composition, right? It's got a timeline, but it's only got a single image on there. But I'm going to make a new layer. I think this is how this works. I'll make a new solid really fast, and what I'm going to do is drag out a line. I'm going to hit Control Plus to zoom in here. Let's can I zoom in? Oh, yeah, okay. Well, I'm going to use the pen tool here, and I'm just going to, on my little solid layer here, I'm just going to use the pen tool and just drag out a little line. It's taking some time here. I'm going to save and quit Photoshop because I feel like maybe it's a lot for it to keep together. Okay, so all I did was I just made a little line. Okay, that's all this is. It's like, in Photoshop, sorry, in After Effects, you can use the pen tool and kind of create like your own custom masks or mats, right? So this is the line. What I'm going to do now is go here to Effect and go to Video Copilot. I'm going to use something called Saber, and Saber is it is a light effects plugin. I'm going to set the core. I'm going to customize core, I think, and I make the core type layer mask. And now I see this little guy attaches to that line I just made. Now the reason why this is interesting is, I'm going to zoom in here. I set the blend mode here to something like screen, so you can see through. Right. So now, but you're going to see, I'll have this set to black so you can see it first. There are different types of light effects here. This is just like the standard lightsaber. But I can go to presets and I can change this to all kinds of crazy things. So I can choose something like green energy, and then when this changes, right, you kind of get this kind of crazy thing. Over time, right, it kind of like, again, it's working very slow right now, but yeah, over time it kind of like it animates over time, right? So I can change things like the core size, make the core size bigger or smaller, and again, really slow right now. I'm not really sure why that is, but I can kind of make the core size get bigger or smaller. I can change the glow spread to make this more, more intense. Of course, I can change the color, change the glow intensity a little bit. So, like, if I change this to say that pink color that we have going on, right? Now I'm going to get, something a little bit more in keeping with what I want. I can make the core size a little bit smaller and have the glow size a little bit bigger. And again, I can choose whatever whatever version I want, right? Whatever preset. And there's a bunch of different presets. For some reason, this is very, very slow. I think it's because of the whole Photoshop thing. But again, I can go to like the glow spread and crank that up. And there's like a lot of different settings. I guess the glow spread is not what I want. Keep that down. The 4 size. But like, yeah, so you can see again, you can get some really cool effects this way. And you'll see like, I'm sorry that it's taking so, it's being very slow right now, but a lot of different presets with very different color schemes and very different looks, which I wish were easier to see here on this very, very slow moving thing. But it's not normally this slow. I'm not sure why it's so slow. But the point is, I can kind of like bring these effects into into my image and overlay them and do whatever I want. Now, what I do want to do, it wasn't a very good demonstration because it was so ungodly slow. I'm not really sure why it was, but who knows. What I do want to do is bring in some of those, what I was talking about before. I want to bring in some footage. So I want to go here and bring in some dust. I'm going to go to dust elements, and then I'm going to go to say dust wave 3, which is just a good reliable dust wave here. I'm going to bring the scale of this up, so you can see as I move through it. But you can see I'm just getting some dust here. And this is kind of, again, what I'm talking about when I say like it's cool to work in After Effects here, because I can just move this around through time until I get, what I want, right? So I get this nice little dust cloud right here. I can go here to say debris flying, right? So now I'm going to come here and pop some debris in here and see what I get. So this, scale this up, right? And I get like debris kind of like flying through the air, and you'll get like, I guess I'll just turn this down transparency wise, so it's just got a little bit more. But this just gives me, again, just a little bit more stuff flying around, right? And because it's kind of, it's real, it's real stuff. It's not made up. It already has the motion blur and all that kind of stuff, so that's kind of a cool thing. There's another thing and by the way, some of these, I think these are all from Video Copilot. There's another really cool one called Shockwaves. There's a bunch of video things, little video pulses. I can choose like Shockwave Vortex, and if I bring this in, you'll see it's this little vortex-y thing like this, right? So again, I can scale this up. I can make this into a 3D layer, and then I can rotate this back, right? Kind of like this. So it's kind of like the same thing that we did with the other portal, kind of like this, right? Rotate this back a little bit more. Now, what I'm going to do is make a new layer, which is going to be the color I want. I'm going to make a solid, and I'm going to make that solid that same pink color, right? And I'm going to bring it below this, and I'm going to say make the track mat, or in other words, make the mask that Shockwave Vortex, and make it the Luma mat. So now you can see here, I can just do screen. Now, basically, I get this nice little vortex-y guy here. I'm going to go back to normal so you can see what I'm talking about. So you can see, basically, I'm getting this nice little vortex-y thing here. Change the blend mode to whatever works, right? And you can kind of create some really cool looks that way as well, right? So, like, you can kind of, again, I can get this little thing here. I can just grab these both, duplicate them a little bit, get, extra big. And now again, I can just move this through time, and I can get these nice little effects here. And once I find kind of like, a combination of things that I think is cool, I'll just do a quick little composition, add to render queue. I can send this out as a picture. So it's really cool. I like to kind of come in here at the end of doing stuff in Photoshop sometimes, and just go through some of the footage that I have that are effects, and just kind of put them over top of it that way. So that's what we're going to do here. So I'm going to do a quick little composition. Boom, render out, and there we go. So now let's see what we got, right? So no jacket parts, and all right. So you can see here, this is kind of like I was basing a lot of it on the overall color scheme from this reference image that I did. Kind of got a little of the photos from that. But I wanted to I wanted to make it seem like he was kind of bursting off the ground. I wanted to make it seem like he was in this environment. So, when I brought that stuff in, I tried to set the lighting up so it felt more like a reflective of the environment we had created. And hopefully it kind of gave him a little bit more of a reason for being in that pose, a way of kind of like showing off the character that you sculpted in a way that, again, is more in keeping with the character itself and not just kind of like a museum pose. Nothing wrong with those, but it's just another way of going, right? So hopefully this was helpful. I really appreciate you guys hanging out. It was really, really fun. Thanks to Mike for coming in, giving me a little laugh here, because it was kind of cool to see him. Don't forget to keep up to date. I don't know what the situation is with Ian, if he's doing it every 2 weeks, but keep an eye open on Discord. We find out exactly what the next stream is going to be, because it was, again, an awesome stream that Ian had on Digital Force on Sunday. So can't wait to see him again. Can't wait to see other guys again as well. So again, everybody, Jamie, Ram, Gus, Ben, thank you guys so much for coming in. Thank you, Manic. So just again, great time to hang out. Hopefully this was helpful. I really do think that bringing stuff into Photoshop gives you a whole other kind of like lease on different things with Photoshop. Okay, Ian's twice a month. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Oh, Zerchan, there you go, man. Thanks for coming in. Yeah, and again, I really appreciate you folks that hang out with me, and thanks for letting me experiment with different things, some of which had more success than others. But see you again on Thursday, hopefully. And again, thanks for coming by, guys.